Starting with the Winchester Model 1903, Americans quickly became enamored by semi-automatics, both for plinking and for hunting. Early American semi-auto rimfire rifles were quite expensive and often pretty difficult to get. So it wasn't until the 1930s when America would finally mass produce a cheap, reliable semi-auto 22 that just about anybody could afford. Getting a big box of 22 shells and heading out to a nearby field to shoot tin cans or rabbits or squirrels is an American tradition that's been a fundamental pillar of our firearms and hunting culture for well over 100 years. Every American hunter that's still alive today cut their teeth with a cheap semi-auto chambered in 22 long rifle probably. Probably some of your most cherished childhood memories revolve around your first 22. I know mine do. In this video, we're going to look at 4 American semi-auto 22s that were the most popular both in usage and in sales. So sit back, relax, while we take a trip down memory lane and look at America's favorite semi-auto rimfire rifles. Stevens actually invented the 22 long rifle cartridge as we know it today, back in the 1800s. This is a Stevens Model 87 tube-fed semi-automatic rifle. The Model 87 was brought to the market in 1938, and over 1 million of these guns were produced, and tens of thousands more were produced under different names for Savage, Western Field, Springfield, and produced under the Sears J.C. Higgins line. These guns were manufactured for over 30 years and are pretty common at gun shows and in Grandpa's garage. Although parts are getting harder to find with each passing year, so if you need parts, get them now. These were often referred to as gill guns, because you can see the little gills back here, or click-clacks. The Model 87 was made to shoot 22 short, 22 long, and 22 long rifle ammunition. And to accomplish this bolt handle was made to lock in and lock out. So you can lock out the semi-auto function when you shoot 22 short or 22 long, and you could pull the bolt out and operate in semi-automatic mode with 22 long rifle. So this only shot semi-auto with 22 long rifle. If you're going to shoot 22 short in it, it's basically a single shot gun. But, a lot of people like the versatility of this because in its day, it basically shot all the 22 rimfire ammunition. So they also called these guns click-clacks or the old clickety-clack because it had a strange delayed firing mechanism that where the bolt doesn't reset back into battery until you release the trigger. So when you're using this, you fire, hold the bolt back, and then release. The bolt goes back, and it makes a clacking sound. So when you fire this, it makes a click clack sound. So they call it the click clack or the old clickety clack. But it's real cool to play with and shoot these guns. But to be honest with you, these are probably my least favorite 22 semi-automatic rifles of all time. These guns have that just absolutely atrocious clickety-clack design, and the bolt handle semi-auto lockout feature is an overcomplicated attribute that further hinders the gun's overall reliability. These slots, they also call it the gill gun because of these slots right here, which, it's designed to make the rifle run cleaner, to basically shoot more of the gunk out of the chamber. But unfortunately, the slots on the side of this receiver are known for throwing out hot shards of brass and powder. onto your support arm while you're shooting, and I've had that happen. So I don't really like shooting this wearing short sleeves. And the trigger, sights, and barrel really aren't optimal for great accuracy. Your typical Marlin Model 60 is a humongous upgrade over these guns, in my opinion. They were also plagued with a lot of quality issues. The magazine tube on the inside liked to rust out. They have a really weird cartridge lifter stop in it that bends up and down and throws off the timing. They have weird, complicated springs in it. Basically, if Rube Goldberg designed a 22, it would have been the Model 87. But these were cheap, and they shot boatloads of cheap 22 ammo over the last century. They brought enjoyment to millions of American sportsmen and were often a kid's first real rifle. Before the Marlin Model 60 came out, the Model 87 was America's favorite 22, and over 1 million of these things were sold. The Marlin Model 60 was released in, you guessed it, 1960. It was a quick improvement over the short-lived Marlin Model 99. And it was pretty much an instant hit because of its reliability, quality craftsmanship, accuracy, and decent price point. With its 16 groove, what Marlin called micro groove barrel, it's still one of the most accurate 22 semi-autos ever produced. These were also made to accept scopes, which was a real game changer in the rimfire world. Marlin also sold this exact same rifle under the Glenfield name at several different department stores. My father bought me this Model 60 in 1978 or 1979 at our local Kmart store. My older cousin had one of these, and I was constantly begging for one because I loved it so much. And when my dad saw them on sale at Kmart for $70, and after my constant promises to do yard work and extra chores, my dad finally gave in, and I ended up owning the best damn 22 I ever had. This thing still runs like a champ today and shoots really tight groups with the scope. One of the reasons that the Model 60 is so reliable is that it was made specifically to shoot only 22 long rifle ammo. Marlin didn't mess around trying to make it to where it also shoot 22 short or 22 long. This was specifically made to only fire 22 long rifle. Those earlier autos designed to shoot a bunch of different ammo caused massive reliability issues with all ammo in retrospect. So that really wasn't a good idea. It also came with a brass magazine tube rather than a steel one, so it didn't suffer from magazine rust issues like other tube-fed guns did. The Model 60 is really, it's also a looker, with its high-quality workmanship and really nice deep bluing and this stock with a neat engraved squirrel on it. 60 years later, these things are still being made, and over 11 million Model 60s have been sold since 1960, making it, pretty much one of the best-selling firearms of all time. Marlin tried to turn the magazine-fed copy of the Model 60, the Glenfield Model 70, into a breakdown survival rifle with the Model 70P, which had limited success. In the late 90s, Marlin formed a close relationship with Remington and collaborated on the Model 795, which was basically a Model 60 with a detachable box magazine. That box magazine, though, was pretty failure-prone compared to the old reliable tube magazine of the Model 60, so the 795 really never took off and sold like the Model 60 did. Even today, the Marlin Model 60 is the classiest looking and most instinctive pointing 22 semi-automatic rifle you can buy. As you know, after 2007, though, as Remington fully absorbed ownership of the Marlin company, quality really started to slip. And, Model 60s made after about 2007 don't have a stellar reputation for quality like they once did. Pretty much everything Remington touched after 2007 wasn't top quality. But even before Remington bought Marlin, Marlin was struggling a little bit in the quality department. I mean, for instance, look at this old first generation Model 60 right here. This is the one my dad bought me in the late 70s. And you could see just the bluing on this thing is just so dark and beautiful and perfectly awesome. And this is a heavily used and abused rifle right here. I mean, this thing's hunted all over Arizona, California deserts, Nevada. I mean, for just decades I've hunted with this thing. And, when I was a kid, when I was a 8, 9, 10-year-old out hunting with this thing, I didn't take care of it. I abused it, and just the bluing is amazing on it. And then you look at this model, and this is a 1999, and you look at the bluing on this, and I mean, the bluing's wore down to nothing in a lot of spots, and this gun doesn't even get used very often. This is hardly used, and the bluing's almost gone on the barrel. It also looks like these older ones have a little bit of a better grade of wood too. And you'll notice what Marlin did too is they switched later on to a bolt hold open design right there. And that's a bolt release, and the older ones don't have that bolt release on it. But so even, Marlin towards the end there, before they totally sold out to Remington, Marlin was even struggling a little bit in the quality department. You could see that this 1978 rifle has the JM proof marks on it. But this 1999 model does not have the JM proof marks on it. And another thing I want to point out here is that, let's line up these barrels here, is that the earlier first generation Model 60s had a magazine tube that held, I believe, 18 rounds of 22 long rifle. Well, sometime in the 90s, I believe, states like New Jersey passed magazine restrictions that even pertain to rimfire cartridges. So Marlin and a lot of the others scaled back their tubular magazines to only hold 15. So this 1999 model, even though it has the same length of barrel as this 1978 model, it only has a 15-round magazine versus the earlier models with the 18-round magazine. The future of all Model 60s and all Marlin firearms as a whole is pretty much unknown right now, as they recently just changed ownership again, and they're currently owned by Ruger now. The Ruger 1022 was designed from the ground up to be something completely different. The looks and ergonomics of this were copied directly from the beloved N1 carbine. Looks like it and feels like it. It was made with Bill Ruger's famous aluminum investment casting process that he invented, which makes it really lightweight. And it features a revolutionary rotary magazine design that was a perfected copy of the Johnson rotary magazine. It was pretty much an instant hit when it came out in 1964, and it currently has the most prolific aftermarket support of any firearm ever made. Even more so than the Remington 700, in my opinion. Every single part of the 1022 is customizable. The design has been completely copied altogether by several other firearm manufacturers, and fully custom actions are even available that match this.
Over the last 57 years, the 1022 has come in countless factory configurations, from stainless models to target models to European style to tactical models to takedown models. But by far, the most popular model is the classic carbine, like the one shown here.
It's an utterly reliable design that's never suffered from poorly feeding factory magazines. And it also feeds a surprising variety of ammo with different pressures. Like the Remington 597 did, Ruger tried to make models of this chambered in 22 Magnum and 17 HMR, but reliability and safety issues forced Ruger to quickly abandon those models. But almost 8 million 1022s have been made over the last 57 years, making it second only to the Marlin Model 60 in total units sold. In my opinion, into the future, the 1022 will undoubtedly become the best-selling and most utilized 22 ever produced.
The Remington 597 was produced from 1997 until 2019. It featured a modern stock design geared towards scope use and ergonomics suited for the full-size modern American man. But the first generation plastic magazines were very unreliable, so the 597 gained a bad reputation for reliability right from the start. In typical late 90s Remington fashion, it took 4 generations of magazines before Remington finally got it right and solved the feeding issues with the 597. Eventually, the 597 would establish a good position in 22 rifle sales.
I bought this 597 for my youngest son to shoot Appleseed matches with. I did end up replacing a couple of extractors in this and polishing up the guide rails on it, and it ran excellent after that. And I only pretty much use quality CCI ammunition in this, and this thing really liked the CCI mini mags. And ignore this crappy wannabe digital camo job I did on here with I think I sprayed it with Duracoat. But in retrospect, it would have been easier just to get my son a 1022. But I wasn't a big fan of Ruger at the time, because it was right after they supported the assault weapons ban. They also made 22 Magnum and 17 HMR versions of these, but those were known to have really bad feeding issues, and the 17 HMR version was considered dangerous to use. I think there was a lawsuit involved with that one. I also had a buddy about 20 years ago that rocked a Dale Earnhardt Special Edition 597 and thought he was super cool, but that guy also rocked a mullet and drank Natty Ice, so I'll let you be the judge of how cool he was. With the rising popularity of the 597, the aftermarket actually latched onto this rifle and started making a lot of aftermarket performance goodies for it. Not as much as the 1022, but they made a lot of aftermarket for this. So after making millions of 597s over the last 20 years, production of the 597 finally stopped in 2019. As of today, the future of Remington itself is unclear. I know that some of my viewers out there look at me as, oh, Desert Dog's that big bore guy, or Desert Dog's that 30-06 or 300 H&H or 35 Wayland guy, or Desert Dog likes shotguns. But, truth be told, I am an absolute huge fan of rimfires, and I use them frequently. I went out rabbit hunting the other day. I'm a huge fan of rimfires. For the attention span impaired viewers out there, No, I didn't include your favorite CZ or SA-22 because those are not American-made firearms, and that's what this video is about. I also didn't include the Winchester 1903 or Model 63 or Remington Model 24 or 66 or the Remington Speedmaster or Mossberg 702 or Savage or the AR-7 survival rifle or, rimfire AR models, because those rimfire semi-autos were sold in relatively low numbers compared to the rifles I talked about in this video. This review was for the truly popular American semi-auto rimfires that were produced in the millions and had long production runs. Personally, I'm in love with the MARLIN Model 60 because that was my first 22 hunting rifle, and I've taken countless squirrels, rabbits, and rattlesnakes with it over my lifetime. That classic checkered and engraved wood with that beautiful blued steel gives this rifle a soul. But the 1022 is probably the most versatile and practical rimfire rifle that America has ever produced. I mean, it's an amazing value, and it's something that won't let you down. It's the only semi-auto rimfire rifle that can be personalized with endless possibilities. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and it took you on a trip down memory lane like it did with me. It was nice to bring out some of these great old guns from storage and do a quick review on them. You can reach me with any questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning into my channel, and as always, good hunting.